The AI train has already left the station and has been reshaping our future at an incredible pace for the past 3 years. If you still don't know how to hop on, I'm going to walk you through everything step by step. And by the end of this video, you'll have a clear formula in your hands that you can take immediate action with. If you're starting from scratch, if you feel lost in this vast ocean of AI and don't know how to take that first step, if you're looking for guidance, you've come to the right place. Because the ultimate goal of our brand is to ensure that everyone, regardless of their background, has an equal chance to thrive in the future of AI. You may be wondering who I am. I'm the author of The AI Bible, a 500-plus page technical curriculum designed to build a strong foundation in AI. I'm also the founder of this educational brand. On top of that, I'm currently a senior year computer science student at Bilkent University, one of the most prestigious universities in Turkey, with a GPA of over 3.7. But most importantly, I'm just a self-learner who was in your seat 3 years ago. I failed twice trying to learn AI from scratch on my own, and only succeeded on my third attempt. Looking back at that journey, analyzing every step of it, and working closely with professors and industry experts, I created one of the most comprehensive roadmaps out there for landing entry-level AI jobs from scratch, designed specifically for non-tech absolute beginners. But before we begin, I ask just one thing from you. Please evaluate everything I share in this video with logic, not just based on these achievements. Now, let me take you back for a second. Remember what I said? I actually failed twice trying to learn AI on my own, as a complete beginner. But on my third attempt, right at the start of my freshman year, things finally clicked. I was still a self-learner, starting from zero, and completely on my own. Was it fun? Absolutely not. And that's exactly why this brand was created. But you might be wondering, how did I finally succeed? It's not something I can sum up in a single sentence. So stick with me. Let me share my story, because even just by hearing it, you'll start to see the common mistakes and, more importantly, how to avoid them. About 3.5, maybe 4 years ago, something happened that changed everything. It was the summer before university. I wasn't even a freshman yet. One evening, a professor, who was also a family friend, came over for dinner with his family. And during that casual dinner, he brought up a topic I'd never heard before: artificial intelligence. He mentioned it because he knew I was going to study computer science and thought AI could be a field worth exploring. That single conversation stuck with me. And as someone who's always been passionate about learning independently, both in high school and later at university, I couldn't wait. I started diving into AI that very evening. So what did I do? I typed AI for beginners into YouTube. One of the first series that came up was titled Python for Artificial Intelligence for Beginners. I thought it was the perfect place to start because I already knew a little bit of Python, just some basic stuff, maybe a couple of primitive data structures, but I had no real computer science foundation. Still, I dove in and started watching the videos. I was spending 4 to 5 hours a day for several days in a row, trying to learn. Looks like I'm very ambitious, right? If you don't know the details, the story seems amazing. But here's the problem. I was constantly pausing the video to look things up. Every few seconds, something made no sense. And by the end of those amazing 4 to 5 hour sessions, I'd made it maybe 15 minutes into the video. And this wasn't just once. This same pattern repeated for 2 to 3 days straight. That's when I realized something was wrong. This just couldn't be right. Spending 4 to 5 hours and only making it through 15 minutes of a video was incredibly demotivating. And I gave up on learning by myself. Looking back now, I can see that during that first attempt, I had neither a solid CS foundation nor a good grasp of Python. I tried again 2 to 3 months later. By then, I had started university, and my first month had already passed. Fueled by the unnecessary confidence boost from surviving my first month at university, I decided once again to try learning AI on my own. In the meantime, I hadn't been idle during those 2 to 3 months. I had been trying to learn cybersecurity because I was interested in hacking. So I had picked up some basic knowledge of computer networks and how to write simple Python scripts. I had even completed 1 or 2 Python series. But once I realized I couldn't really move forward with cybersecurity, I decided to give AI another shot. This time, I didn't just dive straight into AI with Python videos. First, I looked up some roadmaps. So my second attempt went better. I managed to make progress for about 2 weeks. But once I really got into learning AI, I realized I didn't actually know anything. I could still understand a few things in Python. I wasn't starting from scratch, but the AI terms and AI-related Python parts felt completely foreign. And just like before, I found myself in the same cycle again. It was taking me 4 to 5 hours just to get through 15 minutes of a video. Try to guess how it ended. Of course, I gave up again. 2 more months passed after that second attempt. It was November 2022 when ChatGPT was released publicly. That was the moment I truly realized AI would shape the future. Also, none of the other areas in computer science really excited me. So why not give it another try, as if I didn't make it twice? This time, I had my lesson. I was approaching it way more wisely than the previous ones. My brilliant change this time was researching multiple roadmaps instead of just one. In the videos of the roadmaps I found reasonable, there was one thing everyone seemed to agree on. If you don't have a solid foundation in AI, start by building one. So I began researching curricula. I read various blog posts on how to build a foundation in AI, watched YouTube videos, searched Stack Overflow, and explored Reddit communities. While trying to create my own curriculum and build that foundation, I noticed that different sources were recommending different things. One source would say learn XYZ, while another would suggest A, B, Z. Sure, there were common topics, but what about the ones that didn't overlap? Should I skip them? After going through tons of resources, consulting professors I trusted, and examining the AI course syllabi from prestigious universities like MIT, Stanford, and Bilkent, I finally decided to create my own curriculum. Of course, these university curricula were very advanced, so I carefully extracted the most fundamental topics from them. And then I realized that this time I was actually able to learn. I was truly starting to understand how things worked behind the scenes and what artificial intelligence really is. Based on that, I decided to turn my own curriculum into a book so that others wouldn't have to go through the same struggles I did. I started writing this book in January 2023 and named it The AI Bible. While writing the book, I was both using what I already knew and learning certain parts as I wrote. Some concepts took me 2 to 3 weeks to write about. I dedicated around 3 hours a day either to writing or to research. After a year, when I completed the first draft of the book, I met my co-founder. Later, we expanded our team to 5 people. During the following year, I focused on proofreading the book, making sure I hadn't missed anything, and checking whether I had explained everything clearly. Later on, in a survey I conducted, it became clear that students didn't just want a curriculum book. They also needed guidance. So I decided to create a roadmap. After 6 months of research and effort, we developed one of the most comprehensive AI roadmaps in the industry. Throughout the process, I received help from my professors and industry experts. Afterwards, we developed additional products to make learning more engaging and effective, and released them in the form of 4 packages, each offering a unique alternative to fit different learner needs. The reason I'm sharing this story is because I used to carry the same worries as many people do today. In fact, even after years of effort, I still have concerns about the future and the impact of AI. I still listen every day to the thoughts of people shaping the world and keep evolving my own understanding of the future in a dynamic way. Now let's get to the real topic. How can we step into the world of artificial intelligence from scratch? And is it too late for everything? First of all, it's not too late for anything. We're still taking baby steps in the world of AI. Yes, technology has advanced a lot. To someone with an old school mindset, it almost feels like magic now. And the phrase artificial intelligence has become one of the fastest spreading and most commonly used terms in the world. People are now using AI for everything. In fact, in a recent study conducted by the AIPA Association, the fields where AI is statistically used the most were identified. And it was found that many people turn to AI for psychological support when they feel stuck. Will AI take away our jobs? It's definitely true that it will replace some physical, non-cognitive, and repetitive jobs. For example, in the medical field, AI has already started to be integrated into radiology. In agriculture, with the rise of smart robots and drones, there's now less need for manual labor in farmers. So what does this mean? Are these fields going to die out? At least in the short term, no. First, let's talk about the concept of human in the loop. This concept is about humans supervising the work done by AI for quite some time in the future, meaning our job descriptions will change. For example, a worker won't be picking strawberries anymore, but they'll be responsible for controlling the robot and checking whether the crops are harvested correctly. A radiologist won't completely lose their job, but will use AI as an assistant. In other words, because human psychology naturally tends to trust other humans, the concept of human in the loop was born, and as long as people continue to exist, they will continue to trust other people. So AI is not coming to replace us, but to help us in the future. However, it's also true that many people will lose their jobs. So who will be unemployed? Those who can't adapt to the world of AI. And why will they be unemployed? Because they won't be able to keep up with the job definitions that are changing with AI. Isn't it actually pretty simple? There's a technology, and that technology is changing job descriptions. So people need to adapt, and those who don't will lose their jobs. It's actually the modern-day tech-driven version of the concept of survival of the fittest in biology. So what should we do? First of all, it's a fact that artificial intelligence will transform every industry. There won't be a single sector it won't reach, can't be used in, or won't eventually change in some way. It's actually not hard to predict this. We're all personally witnessing how tools like Gemini, ChatGPT, and Grok are already helping us in nearly every task we do. However, the idea of an entire industry being completely handed over to AI is not possible in the near future, or even realistically in our foreseeable future. That's because it would have major social consequences. And when we say humanity isn't ready, this is exactly what we mean. Psychologically, humans will always trust other humans. And one of the key factors that gives a person meaning in life is their profession. Based on these principles, releasing AGI, an AI more intelligent than humans, on a global scale would have massive consequences, from major social divisions to skyrocketing unemployment. The world is not ready for AGI, and it may never truly be ready. In fact, we're almost at the brink of reaching these technologies. According to many theories, global powers have already accessed them, but there's a difference between accessing these technologies and releasing them to the public. So, it's also possible that we're headed toward a future where AI advancement will hit a pause, and most likely, that's exactly what will happen. So what does this possible future mean? In that future, AI technologies will advance even further than today and transform every industry. But no matter which sector they transform, they will always be positioned as assistants to humans. They will optimize workflows, support decision-making, process data, provide predictions, and so on. This means that if this is the most likely future, then we need to prepare ourselves for a world where AI assists us. That's why every profession needs to have at least some understanding of AI. So, before thinking about how to start, you should ask yourself, do I really want to embark on this journey? Am I truly committed to walking this path? Because if you don't have a solid and satisfying answer to that question, you might lose motivation halfway. We need to firmly establish our answer to the question, why? Let's say you have solid reasons to start a career in artificial intelligence. You're genuinely curious. You think you'd enjoy doing this, and you have a real interest in it. You love this technology, and you see your future in it. So how do you start from zero? First, I'd like to briefly explain the concept of frameworks and libraries in computer science. Some developers make life easier for other developers by compressing thousands of lines of code into commands that can be run with just a single line, and they release these tools to the public. These are called frameworks and libraries. In other words, reusable software components that are commonly used in repetitive tasks. The reason I'm mentioning this is to highlight the fact that some things can be learned as a black box. If you're planning to stay at an entry level in AI, you usually don't need to be a software expert. By understanding how things work at a basic level and using function calls from these libraries, you can build your own model in as little as 10 lines of code. In fact, creating an AI model today sometimes takes just 10 lines or even fewer. So if you're someone who doesn't want to lose your job, knowing the technical side up to a certain point is enough. You don't need to know as much as a computer science student or a software developer. Having a broad understanding of how some systems work and knowing how AI functions will be enough to keep up with this world. But some people want to go further. They want to develop AI and dive deep into the technology. They want to understand how the math behind it creates this magic, explore its calculus-based, linear algebra-based, and probabilistic foundations, and customize today's models. That's the career path we call AI engineer. Someone who knows not just how to use a model, but how it's built from the inside out. Someone who dives deep into the black box. The reason I'm mentioning this is because nowadays, when some people say, "I know AI," it often means they've built and deployed just one or two models. But creating and running a simple linear regression model locally takes only about 10 lines, just 10 lines of code. So what really matters today isn't simply writing the code, but understanding how those lines of code work behind the scenes. Another reason I say this is because AI tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, and Cursor have already automated the coding process itself. Today, you can directly ask ChatGPT, "Write me a linear regression model according to my dataset," and it'll give you a fully working model right away. So what's important now isn't building a model from scratch. It's about understanding how the model works internally. You need to understand it deeply enough to be able to make small tweaks whenever necessary. At this point, in order to rightfully say "I know AI," a person should at least understand intuitively how these models work behind the scenes. So, for someone to adapt in today's world, they need to be able to answer questions like, what is a linear regression model? What kind of dataset is it suitable for? What is it used for? Should I use a support vector machine or KNN? Should I apply classification or regression to my dataset? These are the kinds of questions one needs to be able to answer. It's not about writing the code for these models. It's not even about knowing a programming language. What matters is knowing which model to use in which case, and understanding how those models function behind the scenes. That's exactly why, at this stage, the first thing you should do is not master math or learn a programming language. Of course, learn the math, learn the coding too. I'm not saying don't learn them, but for those who don't plan to dive too deep into this field, those who won't be the ones developing AI technology, but simply just don't want to be replaced, or who want to understand AI at a basic level and be prepared for the future, these things aren't necessary. The deep math, the coding, the syntax, or which programming language you use can all be overlooked to some extent. What matters is understanding how things work behind the scenes, and once again, knowing in which cases they can be applied. At the very least, knowing things like how a dataset is collected, why it should be cleaned, what the garbage in, garbage out principle is, what Occam's razor means, and which model should be used when. These are more important at the entry level than coding models or diving into the math. As I said, of course, if later on you decide you want to become one of the best AI engineers, mastering the math and coding will definitely work in your favor. Why did I explain all this? Because the first thing you need to grasp is the importance of building a foundation in AI. And by building a foundation, I mean everything I just mentioned above. How to collect a dataset, why and how to clean it, what Google Cloud is, what cloud computing means, what a model is, which model fits which dataset, how we decide whether a model is good, and countless other questions like these. That's what really matters at the beginning. If we've decided on this path, let's talk a bit about how we can build a foundation in AI, how we can take the first step, how to see what lies ahead, and how to be sure that every step we take is the right one. First, we should begin by finding roadmaps that have been validated by trustworthy people and recommended by those who've already walked this path. If you look back, this is exactly what I did on my third attempt. I researched tons of roadmaps, logically evaluated the ones that made sense to me, and analyzed their common points. This way, we first make a clear decision about where we're heading, because what's the point of moving forward without a compass, right? Then we choose a roadmap, or perform a kind of union operation between multiple roadmaps. If roadmap X catches your attention, but you'd like to add a component from roadmap Y, you can place it in the right spot and create your own custom roadmap. Most roadmaps you find online usually aren't very detailed. They give you the checkpoints, but don't tell you how to actually achieve them. So you need to break these roadmaps down into actionable subtasks. In other words, you need to figure out, at least roughly, how to get from point A to point B, using clear, actionable steps and subtasks. Make sure your subtasks are manageable. A subtask shouldn't take 3 to 4 weeks. It should take at most 1 week. so that you can properly estimate the timeline of your progress. Break your subtasks into pieces as small as possible so that you can integrate them into your daily life more easily. After that, the next step is time blocking. You need to assign a specific part of your day to one of the tasks in your roadmap that corresponds to a subtask. Ideally, this should be at least 1.5 hours for the sake of productivity. Use techniques like Pomodoro, if needed, to make your session more effective. Absolutely avoid keeping your phone in the room and make sure you're in a quiet environment. The hardest part is to keep progressing through the roadmap without getting bored. Make sure you take consistent steps every day. There will be days when you can't study, and that's perfectly normal. Accept it. Don't be hard on yourself and never quit. After a certain point, this routine will become a habit, and a few months later, when you look back, you'll realize you've made great progress before you even knew it. Unfortunately, I can't tell you that you'll land your first job in 3 weeks, like many others claim, because that would be a lie. Learning takes time. Biologically, we learn by forming new neurons in the brain, connecting them with each other, and having them fire together. That's how learning happens. And because learning takes time, mastering something also takes time. When you hit a roadblock or need to relearn something from scratch, make sure you're following a smart strategy. We talked about this in our blog post, Learning How to Learn, on our website. You can find our blog posts through the links in the description. That's all I wanted to share today. Please remember to apply the principles I talked about in this video, not just when learning AI, but in any subject you want to learn. Whatever topic you're trying to master, have a reason, have a roadmap, break it down into subtasks, create actionable steps, and so on. And most importantly, be patient and consistent. Don't forget that learning doesn't happen in a day. It's a time-consuming biological process. At A Sip of AI, our mission is to bring you informative and valuable content like this on a regular basis. Whether it's long-form content, blogs, reels, or posts, we're here every day to teach you something new and help you grow. So for your own good and educational journey, I strongly recommend following us on all platforms. At the same time, for those of our students who prefer to skip all the initial steps like building a foundational curriculum, researching roadmaps, breaking things into subtasks, and creating actionable steps, and would rather have a ready-made guide placed in front of them, I highly recommend checking out the training packages available on our website. Our team has spent over 2 years doing this research for you, so our training packages are always there as an option. Thank you again. As we always say, build your future one sip at a time, and I'll see you in the next videos.